pesky tendonitis has you hurting the entire time you're training, I feel you. I've dealt with all types of tendonitis, and I'm dealing with tricep tendonitis right now. So I'm in my off-season session. I'm gonna take you through my workout and show you what I'm doing to resolve my tendonitis without stopping training or deloading. We're still gonna train. So tendonitis, it is so frustrating because it takes forever to go away. And usually the problem is we just keep training on it the same until it becomes where we can't even use it at all. And so rest is almost what we have to do, but rest doesn't really fix the problem. It's correcting the loading. And with tendons, they are pretty unique because they heal slow. They don't have a lot of blood supply, but also tendons not just about the loading, it's also movement specific. So you might find yourself, if you had like my tricep tendonitis, like I can do any pressing movements, that's not a problem. But when I have loading, like a tricep extension, especially overhead, that puts a ton of stress onto the tendon, and that's what hurts. But I could do an extension down by my side. So first steps here is like, well, let's remove the things that do really hurt and do really send pain to that 3 out of 10 spot. Now, the best things that you can start doing is actually loading tendons to get them remodel and change. A lot of times we want to see what we can take. What special peptides do you need? What type of massage do you need? And while these things do have merit, the number one thing that's going to change and remodel tissue is training. So you should train to improve tendonitis, but it's how you train. So in today's session, what I'm starting with is isometrics. Isometrics are a great way to reduce pain on tendons, prep them for loading, and also just improve blood to that area and get you to able to load the muscle. Now this is the beginning piece here, and when you're able to load a tendon without movement, not creating a lot of the friction and forces that are actually problematic. So for my tricep issue, I start with a loaded isometric of just a tricep push down with like a 20 to 30 degree lockout, near lockout position, 4 sets holding for 30 seconds with like a 60% load of what I would normally do my push down with. As I'm doing this, my tendon is feeling better and better to where I could get into pressing nearly here. But the other thing that I want to do, and the most evidence-based thing that we have for actually remodeling and improving load tolerance of tendons, is eccentric work. Not concentric, that actually causes more shortening of tissue. So eccentric training is great for remodeling and realigning collagen fibers. So this is the real money piece, is doing that rope extension, but just purely eccentric work. So I can lock out the rope, walk back, and just do an eccentric, and then walk back forward, lock it out, get back in position, and just do an eccentric. I can do 3 sets of 10 reps of these. It's light. It's probably 30% the load. Again, you don't want to go over like that 2 to 3 out of 10 in pain, but this is now the actual stimulus that's going to improve the loading of that tissue. We would progress this back up, but eventually if you're able to get back into your old exercise that you could do, well, then you do those. So that's my initial prep work for that tricep tendon. Then I get into my session. Now my session, I'm just looking, how do I need to adjust here? With lockouts weren't a problem for pressing, because at the top of a lockout, it's more about joint stacking, and there's not really any a lot of forces on the tricep tendon like it would be with like my overhead extension. So I went through my pec deck flies, I went through my laterals. Obviously that's not a problem, but when I did get to my tricep extension work, overhead extension work is not happening, and that is the most problematic. That was the issue that was flaring this up. Just needed a break from it. So I'm just seeing what can I do to still get a training stimulus and also not go above like my threshold of like 3 to 10 out of pain. So I was able to do this a single arm push down and stepping back a bit with the cable to where it was a little bit more loaded in the shortened position. Now, if this meant I needed to like even avoid lockout, if that was a problem, I would, but slow eccentrics and also moving to a higher rep ranges. So you're basically just decreasing loading. Then as you're decreasing pain throughout the weeks of doing this, you can increase loading back up. And it's just about rebuilding load tolerance is all this comes down to. And at nighttime, well, I do this as well. And so I want a frequent stimulus to keep remodeling this tissue. So at night, I do the same thing. Like at home, can do like an isometric into a coffee table. And then I have bands where I can go through my eccentric loading work as well. So I'm getting this constant stimulus to create adaptive change. Now, the same thing might be if you had a quad tendonitis. You would start with, well, leg extension would be great. incorporate just an isometric into it, or a wall squat would be another way. But you do really want to try to put on some of that direct tension into the front of the leg to where it creates a lot of tension on the tendon. Then from there, you would progress up to doing eccentrics on the leg extension. So that might be using both legs to go through the concentric and then one leg to lower it in the eccentric. So like progressing these up, it's basically coming down to how much loading can you do in an exercise without going over that 3 out of 10 of pain. You don't have pain the next day either. And if you don't have that, well, then progress the lift. You can progress up in load or even start moving back to that old lift that was starting to give you problems, but progress up slowly in load is the key here. One other thing that I've found very, very helpful is reducing inflammation and being able to get back to a point of just lessening the pain and training it. And I go to the Modern Movement here in San Antonio. Dr. Justin Reyna is a sports chiropractor that owns this business, and he has a variety of methods that he uses, but dry needling with Stim has been very effective for me for, actually being able to drive a type of contraction into the tissue that creates an adaptive response. And so it's basically trying to like hijack the nervous system like a muscle contraction would be. Also, there is a tool that he uses there called the Winback, and that has been a drastic impact on reducing inflammation in the tissue too, to where I'm so much more effective in being able to handle more loading the next day to actually get that positive remodeling effect that I want. Now, I know many people might be asking about what peptides to add in, and while these things do like have impacts, and it's probably for another day, like growth hormone's like the best peptide. I'll say that right now. It does so much for collagen synthesis. And I know people use BPC and TB500, and while I use these things as well, I've never seen them to be the game changer over like what growth hormone would be, or even close to what actual training does. Imagine just if you took growth hormone and just went to go train. Like, you have to train to get an effect, right? Same thing goes with your tendon remodeling and trying to use TB or BPC. Like, yeah, they do something, but man, it's so much more effective if you can train and load the tendon back to a place of strength, which is the root cause problem of a tendon being inappropriately loaded too fast and too frequent and creating damage and weakening the tendon. So we are addressing the root issue here. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. If you want to learn more about training, nutrition, bodybuilding, send out a free newsletter every single week that covers all this stuff in depth. Link is down below in the description. Click that, join an email list. Let me chat to you every week about it. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week.